Hello, and welcome to SquishiVision. I, on Saturday, went down to Star Wars Celebration Europe in London. I'm wearing the t-shirt I got from it, which is why I'm doing something different with my green screen and not having it full, because if it was full, the green on this t-shirt would well, go transparent, because obviously I'm keying out the green. That's one of the pains of broadcasting on a green screen. You can't wear green. This is probably the only day I'm gonna be wearing this, because I mean, if I get up, yeah, see, that's what happens. It goes through. It looks messy. It's not good. But yeah, I went down to Celebration in London. I was cosplaying as generic Star Wars background character 825 or whatever, but it was a lot of fun. It wasn't an in-depth visit. It was an impulsive last-minute purchase to go down. Something I'm probably going to regret when I look at my bank account later this week. But it was something nice about being able to go visit and not have huge expectations of like seeing everything and doing everything, and just being able to like chill and vibe. That being said, I walked past one of the stages, saw a whole bunch of people walking in. I'm like, well, I guess I'm right outside the stage. I could also walk in. I don't know what's going on. Oh, okay, it's an advanced screening, well, a panel and an advanced screening for Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures. So this is the upcoming new animated series that's going to be on Disney Plus and Disney Junior. And it's, I think I heard someone say it's meant to be the first, like, Star Wars thing aimed specifically at preschool. I guess maybe that's true. Obviously, most of the modern animated stuff is very much late teens, early teens kind of age. I have this philosophy that I don't really believe in that kids shows. I think there's family shows which are like for a family audience, because I think if you're making animated shows and you're not taking into account your adult audience, you're probably dumbing it down too much for your target audience. A lot of, mature kids can understand the whole breadth of stuff, and you shouldn't be turning things down for them. You should make things accessible for like a wide variety, because this is the show that they'll be watching together as family. That's my kind of philosophy. But I guess I can scope out preschool as a separate kind of slice of audience, which you don't need to really have a broad kind of thing for. But anyway, yeah. So I know there's a whole bunch of like animated stuff from Star Wars like way back when I've not seen. I know there's like Star Wars Droid and Star Wars Ewok Adventures, and I guess maybe not for preschool. I don't know, but that's like this is probably the first preschool Disney Plus thing. So it's that basically. And so I went in, I sat down in my cosplay outfit. But by the way, I could not breathe or see in this thing. And that's how you know you're doing cosplay right, I guess, when you can't see and breathe, because I was your goggles couldn't see anything, the mask couldn't, and I was doubling up as well, because there was this mask and then there was my surgical mask underneath. Anyway, that's not what you're here to do. So I made a couple of notes. We went in, and the person who was I guess comparing, if you compare panels, it wasn't the person who was actually doing the panel, it wasn't the host, it was the person between the panels to like prepare the audience for the panel, compare whatever. They were like very clear, you cannot record this panel, it's an advanced screening, there's a big brightness screen, do not record. If you have special cameras that will pick out your cameras, and then you'll be kicked off. You kicked out of the whole convention. They're very serious about it. Maybe a bit too serious for what is essentially a school cartoon, but whatever. And even though they were only like, don't record this, the security, rightly or not, and I'm going to lean on a not here, but that's this kind of thing with me, being very, very strict about having your phones out. Because I had my phone out, not to record, but I was making notes, because as a neurodiverse person, I hold information in my head like a sieve. So I was trying to make notes so that it was interesting, so then when I came and did this review, I could have a bunch of notes about what I thought of it. And I think I got flashed once with a torch. Someone was like trying to see what I was doing, and I kind of lost the because even if I felt I was in the right, I'm not gonna sit there in the middle of a crowded screening and arguing my point. So I'd obviously do the polite thing and leave, and if I left, I'd miss the thing. So I was like, I'll need to be cautious. They did walk up to the girl next to me who was also texting. Well, I wasn't texting, but she was texting on her phone. I was like, "Drop your phone away, I'm gonna kick you out." I'm like, so I made a bunch of notes, but I kind of took it out from the phone away. So the rest of it I'm gonna have to try and remember. But they got some of the show. So they got who did they get out on the panel? On the panel they had Michael Olsen and someone else. Is there a list of the crew here? Yeah, so they had executive producer James Waugh, and executive producer Michael Olsen. Their Wikipedia articles aren't existent, so I don't actually know what their background is. So I'm going to do a quick Google now to see if anything comes up. Not much. I found James Waugh's LinkedIn page. Apparently he's senior vice president of something. Let's see what the link. Let's see what they've. I want to know what they've done. Okay, so basically all James has done, kind of note, is I say only. He's produced a whole bunch of kind of shorts for Star Wars. So notably the Star Wars Holiday Lego Star Wars Holiday Special, no Star Wars Holiday Special. And actually all the Lego Star Wars stuff that's come out in the last few years. And he's EPing Star Wars Visions. And then Michael Olsen has apparently like done a whole bunch of other like animated stuff. If this is the same one I'm looking at here. So nothing kind of like, not particularly famous. Not to like put them down or anything, but no, you wouldn't know them if you didn't know them, and I didn't know them. But they came on, basically they're the people who basically pitched the show to Lucasfilm. Lucasfilm Animation. And their whole kind of thing was, I'm also drinking my Star Wars mug. Their whole thing was they wanted to make Star Wars that was one of them at least was a new dad. I think whoever it was out of two who spoke first, probably James, I want to say, James Waugh. Yeah, well, I'm sorry, I can't remember what his name is now. But he was basically a new dad. One of the two was a new dad, and wanted to make Star Wars that they could, use as a gateway to introduce their new kid to. And the other one was also a dad and wanted the same kind of thing. And so basically that was their whole thing. We're gonna make a preschool show, but it's gonna be inherently Star Wars. Like, they didn't want to hold back in introducing all the things that make Star Wars Star Wars, had all the elements of Star Wars, but all like, the lightsaber, the Jedi, blah blah blah. But they also wanted to make sure that the values of Star Wars were also within it. So hey, Star Wars is inherently a leftist progressive piece of media. If that upsets you, you probably misread like the entirety of the text of Star Wars. And that's good principles to kind of teach young kids. And so that's why they kind of said it during the High Republic, because they wanted to, a lot of, obviously, like the Skywalker saga, the main core of Star Wars is obviously set during quite a politically turmoil era, and obviously not a great time for the Jedi. It's basically during a failing de facto democracy into a fascist regime, into a unstable post-fascist government, which then quickly destabilizes back into a fascist regime. And that's obviously not what they kind of want to do for a preschool show. They're set during the High Republic era, or was it the Old Republic era? High Republic era. Where there's relative peace and stability across the universe, and that kind of gives them the kind of, we can tell this story and not have to worry about all the dark stuff. And one of the showrunners, I think it was probably Michael Olsen, said that he had seen the Anakin meme. So there's a whole bunch of memes that came out when the show was announced, which basically, here's how the show, and they use this kind of image here, here's how this series begins, and then the series is going to end, and they show about the image of Anakin about to slaughter the younglings in the council, and then some people politically have pointed out in the comments of things, well, no, because it's set 100 years before Anakin was even around, and Michael Olsen basically agrees. That's he does find the memes funny. It's great when showrunners see the memes we make of those things. I say we, I had nothing to do with it, but still. So yeah, that was their pitch. And yeah, so that was the first like half an hour was basically them introducing it, and then we basically and then D. Buddy Baker came on, which was great. It's the first time I've seen D. Buddy Baker like in physical person. Like I mean, like as in I say that as if I've seen all the other people. I saw a lot of people this weekend who I've never seen before, who I've obviously seen on screen. But D. Buddy Baker. So other cast. A vast majority of them aren't people that I particularly recognise, and we don't really have any kind of. I mean, they don't have Wikipedia articles, most of them, so I'm guessing that I shouldn't really recognise them. For some reason, I'm blanking. For some reason, Tom Kane isn't back to voice Yoda. They've got someone called Piotr Michael to voice Yoda. I'm not sure what that's about. I mean, this is Yoda 100 years prior to we've ever seen him before, but the voice doesn't sound particularly different. Like it doesn't sound any more like it doesn't sound massively different from Tom Kane's, who is the primary animated voice actor of Yoda. So I'm not sure why Tom Kane wasn't brought back here. But Yoda, as you can see in the image behind me, is a prominent character in the series. Basically playing the mentor figure, etc, etc. But you know, I mean, the series didn't really clarify what Yoda's position is. I don't know if he's how high he is in the Star Wars hierarchy here. Maybe that's already confirmed in the materials. I'm not that well versed in Star Wars lore around the High Republic era. And then the D. Buddy Baker plays Nubs, who is that. Wait, my hands are reversed. Hang on. This one. That character. It's so hard to move my hands and point when things don't exist. Plays that character, and basically, okay, if you've watched Star Wars Prodigy, and there's a lot to compare between this and Star Wars Prodigy, even though Star Wars Prodigy isn't preschool, it's very much the same target audience as the Clone Wars. But he plays a very similar character to Murph in Star Wars Prodigy, in that his only kind of contribution. Well, I don't want to. Why do I sound like I'm putting down the people involved in the show? D. Buddy Baker in Star Trek Prodigy basically plays a character who just communicates in very kind of alien noises, and Nubs is exactly the same. Also, I have to say, I don't know if he's like this elsewhere, because I've not watched a huge amount of D. Buddy Baker interviews online, but certainly at this weekend, he needed no excuse to just randomly start like voicing his characters. Like when he was on his panel, he would just with absolutely zero prompting, would just. So Nub speaks in basically I'll describe it as a selection. I don't want to try and impersonate it, maybe I will, but basically Nubs as a poober speaks in what is essentially a series of trills, clicks, and squawking noises. And it's meant to be a language, and you gotta admit D. Buddy Baker for this. I don't know like how much of this language is like canonically scripted, or if he has a practiced vague idea of what the language is meant to sound like, and he's just making phonetic noises that sound like a sentence, or if he's rehearsed these actual lines. I don't know, maybe it's a mixture of the two, but he just like randomly during this panel he just like dropped into speaking as Nubs, and it's like, it's interesting because obviously he's playing a character who doesn't have like human physiology, and so if he's distorting his face to make these very unique sounds, and it's actually quite fascinating to watch, and that's I guess the whole art of voice acting. But yeah, he just be like answering a question, and then like give you a pause, and like to fill a gap, he's like he contorts his face, and like, yeah, I mean, I definitely wouldn't have the kind of goal to do that on a stage, but I guess we need to be doing this long enough. And then on his other panels, which I didn't see in person, but I've been watching the live stream of the panels that I haven't clearly went for the day. During the Bad Batch panel, he would just randomly like, and very flawlessly drop into like his Bad Batch voices, like his he seems to be very fond of Rekka's voice, which seems odd because he also said Rekka's voice is the hardest to do on a prolonged basis because obviously it's this more deeper, grating voice. But he likes he walks on stage and the first thing he did was basically say hello to everyone as Rekka. I can't do a Kiwi accent, so I'm not going to try. I played a one shot of a Star Wars RPG. I can't remember which Star Wars RPG because it has a couple of systems that was meant to be as playing as a Bad Batch, and I was Rekka, and I tried to do the voice and it didn't really work out well. But like, you know, he'd drop it, and then like he also dropped into like saying some of the words, some of the actual lines, like so he dropped into like Crosshairs quotes, he'd drop into like Tex quotes and Hunter's quotes, and Rex. It was like what are you prompting? Like that guy loves to do his voices because there was absolutely no prompting towards it. But yeah, so he's basically in this playing a very similar character to he plays in Prodigy, kind of a character who doesn't really like communicate in English, but is still like part of the family. And then the other person who I recognize, well, who I know of is Emma Berman, who plays Nash, who is that character. I need to remember which hand I'm pointing with. Who is the only non-Jedi of the main cast. That is Nash Durango, who is a pilot. And Emma Berman is one of the voice actresses from Luca. Luca, what the show's called? Yes, Luca. She plays the female lead in Luca. Everyone else doesn't have a Wikipedia article, so I'm assuming they've not really done much things of note. But yeah, the characters. So we've got. I'm loath to say the main character, but certainly, such as the way of preschool shows, you've got to have like one key kind of character who like drives most of the kind of thematic plot and the core message of the series. So that would be Kai Brightstar, and so we got 2 episodes shown to us. Supposedly episode 1 and episode 2. But I'm looking at the list of episodes on Wikipedia, and none of the 4 that are shown here are the 2 episodes that we were shown. So I don't know what's happening. Oh, actually, I think these are shorts. These aren't the actual episodes that are being. So I think this show gets released on the 4th of May. So yeah, we've got shown 2 episodes. Of the thing, and Dee Bradley Baker introduced it by basically introducing it as Nubs, which is really funny. So we got Kai Brightstar, who's basically, you know, kind of he's very much the leader of the gang. Like, he takes the lead on everything, and that means that he kind of heads into plot and is the one who makes the mistakes that he then has to learn. Or at least that's the case in the first 2 episodes. Actually, no, that's not really true. But it certainly is for the first episode. It's weird. It's okay. So it's that thing where. So I think the episodes are roughly 20 minutes long, and what it was 2 10-minute episodes essentially, back to back. So you could very easily imagine if it was syndicated, you'd have a 10-minute slot and then a commercial break and then a 10-minute slot. And you could easily mix them up, like those 10-minute things. But as episodes, I think and that's very common. Think about how like SpongeBob SquarePants, that's an example that's coming to my head. In an episode, it's usually a 2-parter, and then they're completely different stories. So it's very much following that kind of 10-minute stories, but the episode's 20 minutes long, and the 2 stories are put together. So in the first 2, it's very much Kai, who is the person learning the message, but then actually the second part falls from the other characters. So I'm not going to go into like spoilers. I mean, spoilers is such an odd thing to describe for a preschool show. If you're an adult watching this, you are not going to have. There's no law-shattering revelations, and I don't think you should expect any, because it's obviously not that kind of show. So if you watched any preschool shows, you watched all preschool shows. I mean, maybe that's unfair to preschool programming, but none of the plots particularly kind of out there. But I think other 2 are shown, certainly Nubs and Liz, I can't remember how her name is pronounced, but the Pantoran here, get the least development, so I'm not quite sure what their whole shtick is. But then again, I was only given the first 2 episodes, but they're kind of very supportive. I mean, these two seem to hang out with each other more, so they're kind of like they were more supporting cast in the first 2 episodes. But I'm sure as the series progresses, they'll have their kind of day in the limelight, and it'll balance out. And then Nash is meant to be like the audience surrogate. That was explicitly said by the creators in the panel, because she's not a Jedi. Her kind of one of her functions is to basically ask the questions, and so there's a point where Yoda first appears, and she's like, "Who's Yoda? Who's that green?" She literally says, "Who's the green guy?" And it's a bit of a weird thing to kind of get in Star Wars when Yoda is such a prominent figure in the lore that the idea that you'd have to introduce someone to Yoda is quite hard to kind of comprehend. But I guess if this is your first ever time watching Star Wars, anything of Star Wars, then yes, you would need someone to explain who Yoda is. And I guess that's very much what they were going for, as well as it being just a preschool show. It is going to introduce aspects of the lore, so it will introduce. So there's like, can't you Jedi do that floaty mind thing, and that's how they're introducing the Force to a whole new generation of fans. The whole idea of Jedi philosophy, like helping people, not acting for your own self-interest. These are all kind of messages that they use, and it kind of introduces you into like Jedi philosophy as well. And there's some antagonists in the show. I'm not sure if these antagonists are meant to be recurring or one-offs, because they only appeared in the first episode of 2 stories, but they also appear in the opening title sequence, so I'm assuming they're going to become more regular. But basically, so what happens, without going to kind of detailed spoilers, but to be fair, I don't think this is I think this is probably already released in some kind of press material somewhere or another. Also, I wasn't told I couldn't spoil things to you. It wasn't like an advanced press screening. I wasn't given a special invite. I just turned up to a stage and they showed this episode to me, so it's their own fault if I leak stuff. I don't want it to be leaked. But essentially, as part of their youngling training, the younglings get sent off to, like, I guess a camp. They get sent to a planet where they've got to basically learn their Jedi skills away from the Jedi temple on Coruscant. We did see old Coruscant. It looked interesting in the brief moments we saw it. Like, this is Coruscant 100 years prior than we've ever seen on screen. And it did look fairly interesting. I don't think we're going to spend much time there, because we moved to this this new planet. I can't remember what it's called now. That's where most of the series is set. So these younglings basically go there, and that's where they learn all their lessons, and it kind of means that they got to be a bit more independent. But on this planet, there's also like pirates. But I think pirates, it seems like the one pirate is basically a kid. Like, it's like a kid pirate. So not an actual pirate. Like, it's probably just some outlaw kid. He's more like just a bully, really. He's the preschool archetype of a bully. Like, he does childish things like theft. He's not gonna go plunder and murder. Well, that being said, him and Kai do fight. I mean, Kai gets his lightsaber out, which is a real lightsaber, and fights this person who has vibro staffs. And I very much doubt, in the context of the show, that the fights are ever going to be to the death, and certainly both of them treat it like sparring matches. But these are kids fighting with lethal weapons. My imagination kind of runs wild. I'm like, well, at some point, are we going to have an episode where Kai has to deal with taking his first life? Because within the larger Star Wars lore, part of what the age, there is no kind of concept of being a minor in a Jedi Order. When Obi-Wan was from when I used to read the old Legends books, and Obi-Wan used to go on missions with Qui-Gon. Obi-Wan was 14, 15, 16, and even and Anakin was 9, 10, 11, 12, and he was going on missions where he was in danger and having to fight and fight to defend his life and fight other people who were trying to kill him and stuff, So these Jedi are preschool, they're probably 10 8, 9, 10-ish. In fact, actually, no, than that, because Anakin was 9 when he became a Jedi, and that was too old. So these are like probably young kids, basically being trained to be warriors. And I know the whole Jedi thing is we're not meant to be warriors, we're peacekeepers, and that whole thing destabilized as we became closer to the Clone Wars. But it just fascinates me that these obvious Jedi are basically being trained to know how to fight. But we're not going to tackle the dark grim reality of that. But it'd be funny if we did. It'd be funny if we get an episode where Kai basically has to kill someone to save a whole group of people, and he has to deal with the trauma of having to take a life. Hey, someone's gonna write that fanfic. It might be me. I don't know. Stay tuned. That's where my career picks off. I'd be famous for the person who wrote the gritty Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures fanfic. But yeah, I mean, they do fight. So, but I mean, and the action sequences aren't particularly great. Think about the really good choreography at the Clone Wars. This is the opposite spectrum of that. But I wouldn't imagine to it's probably fine for the target audience. For the Jedi to just be kind of lightly tapping sticks at each other, essentially, is what they're doing. But yeah, okay, so what's my thoughts on the episodes I watched them, and not spoiling any of the plot insofar as there is plot. So this isn't new to me. I've never actually reviewed or reacted to preschool things. I mean, I think I'm very self-aware. I'm not a target audience, so it's hard to really be fair to it, and I don't absorb a lot of the modern preschool content because it's not for me, so I don't really have much to compare against. I compare it with what I used to watch, but I obviously have a very tinted glasses perspective of preschool stuff in the early 2000s. That being said, I watched this and I found it interesting. I found it amusing. I didn't find it kind of, I wasn't wide-eyed, mouth agape, because obviously I knew where all the plots were going. I knew where all of the twists were going to, I knew where all the kind of plot points, plot beats. They're very kind of recognizable stories, but that's what you're expecting, aren't you? This is a show for kids who haven't absorbed media and will be absorbing these things the first time, so you don't need to break the mold, do you? So if I ignore that, it actually was fairly interesting. I think it did a very good job of introducing Star Wars. If you were 3, 4, 5, 6 and you've never seen Star Wars before, I think this would help you break into the lore, which is what it wants to do. So I think it didn't dumb down any of the concepts. It feels very natural. It contains a whole bunch of traditions, like the fact that they'll never lock ships on Star Wars, and then get very surprised when someone steals things from it. I will say this show does have the Wilhelm scream, and it thrills me to no end that for a bunch of kids this will be the first time they ever hear the Wilhelm scream. Absolutely, as it should be. Also, the Force theme tunes in this, so it is Star Wars through and through. And they will hear that theme, and that's great, because if they enjoy a show when they hear those themes and they hear those sounds and they hear these kind of aspects and lore elements, and then they grow up older and they watch stuff that's more age appropriate, that's basically the best way to grow into the franchise, and they'll be very familiar with these concepts. So yeah, and we see there's still stuff that's interesting. We're seeing new parts of Star Wars. We're seeing new parts. And like I said, I'm not that familiar with the High Republic era of Star Wars. So this is actually fascinating for me to see what the universe looks like 100 years before this political turmoil. And I suppose if you were familiar with the High Republic era, you'd probably be like, oh, I recognize. I mean, I'm sure there's probably a whole bunch of Easter eggs. It is canon. So we're going to make things consistent with the large universe. So there's probably a whole bunch of symbology and things which you're going to recognize. There was another point into my head and I've forgotten what it was. Oh yeah, I think I remember watching there was another kind of person who came on. I think they were talking about the whole Star Wars theme parks areas at Disney, and I think there's going to be a bunch of some of the episodes set on Batuu, which I think is like where Galaxy Edge is set, and so it's going to kind of cross over there. But yeah, so this is my thoughts on the first 2 episodes of Young Jedi Adventures. I'm probably gonna watch it. I mean, it's not like I don't know if I'm gonna. I don't know if I'm gonna watch it and do like live post reaction reviews like I normally do for all the content I watch. I don't know if that's a bit too extra or not, considering that it is what it is. I don't imagine I'm gonna have that, even if I didn't. Like, part of the reason why I chose to make this like spoiler free isn't because I was like afraid of like exploiting the fact that I got to go to advanced screening and I'm going to read it for people who haven't seen it yet. It was most also because, well, there's not much to kind of comment on the plot. It's generic preschool stuff, just with a Star Wars skin, but executed fairly well. Like, none of it seems cringy, none of the what feels afar, like the first episode was basically, about putting I've forgotten the message already. It's about it was about helping others before you. It was about being selfless, essentially. That was what I was looking for. It was about having your Jedi being selfless and like not putting your own pride and your own kind of needs above a larger group kind of philosophy. Like, that's a very kind of obvious plot to tell. The other one was about being true and integral to your principles and things like that. So and it's like, you watch the episode, you're like, okay, I know where the story's going to go because I'm an adult and I've seen all these messages before, but it portrays it quite well to those who haven't seen it. So yeah, that's my thoughts on this. I am going to now reset my setup and do a couple of trailer reactions. I'm gonna react to the. So what's this dropped? Hold on, let me check my phone. I have it in my to watch thing. There's the Indiana Jones trailer, which I didn't catch when I was down in London. Where are the trailers? There's the Indiana Jones IMAX trailer. I swear there's something else I was going to react to as well. Oh, the second Barbie trailer, because that came out like a week ago. I've not reviewed that. There's another gameplay trailer for Star Wars Jedi Survivor that I need to react to. And yeah, why not? There's a new film coming from Illumination called Migration, and I'm like, well, sure, why not? I'll react to that. So a bunch of trailers that I'm basically react to. And then, you know what time it is? I might play a couple of hours of Star Wars Bounty Hunter because I need to catch up. For my aim is to finish the game before, finish the game. So we've got 2 more episodes left of Mandalorian. So next, I want to finish the game basically on the 19th of April, and I have still like half a bit to go. So I need to catch up. I need to basically finish chapter 3 as much as chapter 4 as I can. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, cheers, and if you want some reactions to videos, stay tuned. I mean, people are actually watching this, which is kind of neat.